Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
I've trained people mentor trained from the very top echelon, like a Klaus Kleinfeld, to guys. One of my lawyers years ago was walking down Figueroa Boulevard in Los Angeles, and there were three black guys that were how when you the lease is over and they come in and clean all your shit off and they rip shit off the walls and they rip the electrics out and they redo the floors. There were three guys, and on their loudspeaker, they heard my voice. These guys, or my lawyer who's walking down Figueroa to go to court, and he stopped and he said, "Excuse me." There was one guy in the van. "Excuse me, who's that?" He says, "He's our mentor." You know him? He says, "Oh, we know him from YouTube." Yeah. Their goal was to not have a little van. Now they own a trucking company. They own a fucking trucking company. These three little black guys from East LA. You know, I'm not saying they were criminals before, and I have pictures of them. They certainly look like criminals, but every black man's not a criminal. So but I understand the social profiling. I understand why they do that. And so you got to want it, though. You got to want it. My high school, who we're giving scholarships to, now, and Kat's doing the job. But I say me, but she does all that. Not all, but almost all the work. When you go to visit the principals, and I tried to burn the fucking school down once, 1963. Why do I want to come and now have the school named after me? But when you get that money, and I want you to do good with it. I'm past, I don't want to change the world, but you have no idea what it means that when you give scholarships to kids that wouldn't get a scholarship. You have no idea the feeling you get. I have trouble sleeping because how can I impact these fucking guys? I told you towards the end of this afternoon, these guys don't want to do these fucking cases anymore. These guys, so I switched into the mode, Marcus Bauer, Australia, Adelaide, and today. Now I got more emotion out of it for the pig fucker. Because nobody in this room can relate to him. I can. He's a mechanic. Not now. Had grease under his fingernails. His office was in his toilet. That Dutch pompous fuckface that asked him the question, you don't need business cards. You don't need a website. All you have to do is make the calls. Whether it's from a toilet like he did, or a fucking phone booth. All you need is a cheap, I don't know if they can do a suit for $200 suit from Walmart. And wear it 3 days and have it cleaned and wear it 3 days. I mean, that's all you need. Not very much. In fact, it's nothing. It's nothing. But yet, some of the kids, some of the you don't do it. And again, how hungry are you? How motivated are you? How many sacrifices are you willing to make? In a perfect world, and the world's not perfect, your wife or your significant other and your kids work it out. That's a bullshit line. Because that's not how it works out. Once in a while it works out. And so I wish for those of you that are situated in those kinds of lifestyles, I hope it does work out for you. But down deep inside, I know that for most of you, it's not. If your goal and aspiration is what we talked about. It's just not going to happen. Not because you're a bad person or your wife or significant other's a bad person. Not because your teenage daughter's a bitch, but she probably is a bitch. Yeah, not because it's just not in the cards. Because their reality is not your reality. And although you've tried your best to be a role model of some kind, a role model in the 2023 ending into going into 2024 is significantly different than the role models of your parents. It's not the same. And and I'm not going to change the seminar because I know it works. People ask me, I told you for this documentary, Mr. Peña, what is the main thing, the one tip that you can put your hand on and say is responsible for your success? And I said, without even thinking, the 100 and 120-hour work weeks that I put in that I can't even count. That's not what they wanted to hear. I thought, but it was the truth. The countless 100 and 120-hour work weeks. We have some kids that can work more than 120 hours. I needed some sleep. But and I drank a lot, and I'm not recommending you stay stewed like I was a lot of time. But I was so focused on the end result, I would go through the hangover every day just so I could make more sales. And when the 24-hour market opened up on Wall Street, fuck, I thought, oh, God almighty, thank you, God. I mean, this is the nirvana. That means I don't ever have to sleep. Because there was a market open someplace, sometimes. So I changed my repertoire. We started, doing deals in Japan, all over the place. And it was a godsend to me. I thought, Jesus Christ, why does anybody sleep? But I was a hungry fucker. Other question, please.
I was just going to ask. I was curious.
Now, you know what a Uper is in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Is this a Uper deal?
No, I was actually curious on just what your thoughts were, if any, on the new Argentinian president.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of wannabe, wannabe Trump, wannabe this, wannabe that. Most of these guys won't stand the test of time. And I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about, to the extent that I'm involved in Germany, the United States, Canada, politics there, but I'm more importantly, I'm interested in Scotland, where I'm going to run in the not too distant future, which I understand the Scottish politics pretty damn well. And there should be a civil unrest uprising here. I'm not recommending that you storm the Capitol like they did January 6th in America. But things are so fucked up here. Almost every single politician we have, let's see, Kat, you told me the last postings, we had over 400 new postings of being pedophile, a rapist, murderer, stealing, right? Okay, and when was the last seminar? Since September, there's over 400 incidences of debacles. 400. Not every day, but every other day, somebody touched somebody. And it's normally men touching boys. I mean, you can hardly get the headlines if a woman was touched by a guy, because there's so many things above it. And I'm not condoning or recommending any of this, and yet there's no upheaval. They should be marching in the streets like the Palestinians and Jews are marching in London, New York, but nobody, because they've given up here. They've just given up. From William Wallace to what we have now, and we have a Yusuf, a guy who's the first minister, and who was preaching. I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree, but he was using his office to condemn Israel for what they did to the Palestinians in Gaza. I'm not taking a position either way. But in real world, 40, 50 years ago, if you come in and kill 1,500, 2,000 people and massacre them, I'm surprised nobody dropped a nuclear bomb. No. And the justification of the Palestinians was, after 40, 50 years of being under the thumb. Well, I'm not going to take a position either way on that, but I do know up here where I live, they don't know what interest rates are. They don't know how much a pint of milk costs. They don't know anything. And because they're fat, dumb, and happy, like I have been. So there will be new things. One thing I can guarantee, since I've been up here 40 years, is, and as I've told you, the economic world, the economic milieu that we exist in today will be different 3 to 5 years ago from now. But what I can tell you, for 52 years, almost 52 years, the model's worked. Doesn't matter. High interest rates, low interest rates, the model's worked. And with no money. And to the extent that Zane, who I poked fun at, and 2 or 3 others of you, the Czech Republic, you tried things that weren't necessary. You tried things that weren't necessary. And not that Zane has any economic background, or the Czech Republic has any economic background, or for that matter, any of you. But you won't do. I could have 1,000 people tell you, follow the steps, get your head screwed on straight. And the reason why you don't do it? Because you're not serious. I made fun of Amber when she was here, and because I talked about big tits, and she'd stand up, and her tits aren't very big, and she'd stand up and put her chest out like this, and she pissed most of the people off. But tonight, the equivalent of tonight, she stood someplace, and she says, if this is my competition, manhood, there isn't any. And you ought to be embarrassed. Words to that effect. And of course, I went to bed early like I don't normally do. And I didn't see with these eyes that somebody wanted to punch her in the face, but there's not much manhood left. There's not much manhood. Other question? Yes, ma'am. By the way, you look better with skin-tight clothes.
Thank you.
And I know you're not supposed to say that anymore, but anyway, go ahead.
I mean, well, truth is truth.
Yeah, exactly. Truth is truth,
So, where's the biggest shithole that you've ever done business? I know you've talked about Escondido, California, and you've also talked about Mesa, Arizona.
Well, I got rich in Mesa, so I mean, and I have not yet to get rich in Escondido. Okay. So that aside, Cleveland and Chicago.
Would you buy them?
Oh, I'd roll up there, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. But I know what to expect. And the toughest business, even though I got rich there as well, mobile home parks. But I mean, you can't go in there willy fucking nilly. I mean, it's tough. I've been saying since the 90s. You need a general manager, like a retired sergeant major from the Marine Corps or from the Army. You need somebody who knows how to kick ass and take names. What forced me out of the mobile home park business, Sam Zell decided to get involved. He rebranded mobile home parks, and he called them manufactured homes. And he divided them into A, B, C, D. And so he reinvented the business, much to his credit, turned them into REITs, and made a couple $1 billion. He was much more far-seeing or far-reaching than I was. All I saw was 60 to 70% cash flow, and collecting the money from the vending machines with a Brinks truck. This was when the vending machines were quarters and nickels and dimes before credit cards. And I mean, they were easy. Most of them were owned by not illiterates, but kind of illiterate people that weren't that sophisticated. And they understood seller finance. At that time, the banks were paying 6 or 7, and we were paying them 8 or 9 or 10 on their seller's notes. So they thought that we did terrific by them. So mobile homes is the roughest. The areas would be Cleveland and Chicago. Nothing's done easily in Cleveland. Nothing. Everything is hard. But we have kids rolling up stuff in those areas. I would not go to Cleveland or Chicago, especially Cleveland, if you're not colored. You know, you're pissing in the wind. I mean, I could lecture for an hour about that, but me lecturing for an hour doesn't make any difference. It is what it is. There's certain areas. There is a belt between just south of D.C. that goes all the way to about Jacksonville that has African American home health and assisted living. A swath of about 150 miles inland from the ocean and about 700 or 800 miles down. And a lot of people have gotten rich on that. But I mean, you know, there are Jewish areas. There's Muslim areas. And that's what your board's for, to ascertain whether you should be there or not. I mean, there's no area where this program doesn't work. And there's no area where you need money. To the extent that you try to use money, most of you in heretofore to now have tried to use money in lieu of brains. And you haven't done so well. The only thing my dad understand about our program, he stood right under that thing and I had my arm around him and says, Dan, tell me it's not drugs. No, Dad, it's not. It's originally oil and gas, and more recently is, buying stuff with other people's money. He didn't understand that. And he says, do you have money of your own at risk? I said, no, Dad. He liked it. That's the only thing he understood about the model. Dad, I have none of my money at risk. So he smiled. And if you follow the model correctly, you don't have any money at risk. And to the extent that you try to put up money, and you'll probably fail, but you're committing the cardinal sin. You don't have to. But someplace down deep inside, your chairman or your CFO or a combination thereof, even though you tell them you don't need any money, they don't believe you. The only time they believe you is after you do a deal. And then they still don't believe you until you do 2 or 3 deals. My board, back in the day, I'm not sure any of the guys really understood. All they knew is their stock was worth $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $10 million. Anything else before I go to bed?
How can we or the QLA bots outside support you in politics?
Right now, not. But
The model that I showed you.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah. But now, I'll get elected, and as you guys get rich and you're mega this, think about building factories or whatever here, in Scotland. I don't want any economic part of it. They're so used to turning down things here. There's a legendary story from 2 years ago. A group came in and approached the council and the Chamber of Commerce, etc. They wanted to build a 40 million pound bespoke building for something. And they were turned down. They couldn't get approval of the property, blah, blah, blah. And the excuse they used is that, it's bespoke for one industry. What if you don't make it? So what are we going to use this building for down the road? That's not the question you ask. When somebody's willing to put up for the permits, etc., 40 million pounds. Since there has not been any new development here since Christ, when I went back and looked, there's 2 companies in the equivalent of the Fortune 500 in Angus. There's 2 companies. One has been here since 1788, and one has been here since 1849. Nobody since. Nobody. And so what they should ask is, since I started yanking Nicholas Sturgeon's chain, who has now resigned, she went to the United States looking for money to invest here. No, she is the first minister of Scotland that has ever went to the United States looking for anything. And that's because I yanked their chain and I embarrassed them, and I called them all kinds of names. And nobody's been to, they say, which is wrong, that the EU would welcome them with open arms since the UK left the EU. I mean, they'd have to get their, nobody thinks it's true. What currency are you going to use if you want independence and you gain independence? Well, are you going to use the British pound? Probably not. Are you going to start with a new pound for Scotland? Maybe. What's it going to be backed by? I mean, you run at a major deficit every year for the last 100 years. It's easy to talk and flap your lips, just as people flap their lips about climate change, just as they flap their lips about a lot of things. But, when you get down to the realities and you actually, it's like the picture of the Cayman Islands I showed you. I'm not the only one that can look at Google Map. From 1993 to 2023, it's very 3 inches. Al Gore said they were going to be under 10 or 20 feet of water. Just as an aside, Guthrie Castle, 660 feet above waterline. So it's going to have to be a super global warming. Now, the next ice age is due in 5,000 to 7,000 years. Most of you would say, so fucking what? Maybe you, because you want to save the world. Even the Catholic Church doesn't give a fuck about.
I'll listen to Pope. What do you think?
Yeah, Pope, whatever. If I had been a priest, and I wanted to do that so bad, I would have been a tyrant priest like back in the 3rd, 4th, 5th century, without wives. Now, you know why Catholic, the church is based on celibacy.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, in about 900, whenever it was, the priests were starting to die, and they were leaving their estates to their families, not the church. So the church, Pope, whatever he was in that time, fuck, bullshit, this is, So he made the priests be celibate. That didn't make them not have families. But now when they die, the family estates, the houses, the farms, the land, go to the church and not their families. That's why the Catholics, the hierarchy, made that decision.
Would you go become a priest if they changed that? Be married?
Well, I assume I'm going to outlive Sally. If Sally dies soon enough, I'd go back, and I wouldn't mind going back and become a priest. I'd be Pope in about 20 months, and but see, that's how I think. Contrary, to how you guys think. Yeah. You've got to assume the clothes, guys. You've got to assume the clothes. And that you're doing them a favor. And you are. You really are doing them a favor. You're changing their lifestyle. You're changing their life. And money's not everything, but it's just about the only thing anybody keeps track of. And I got an email from St. Teresa, what do you call it? I got a big card and cat and EJC, this stuff. And sometimes they outdo themselves. This last card we got from the Holy Family. And the church that was bombed in Gaza was a Holy Family church. My church that I support. and so right, they still haven't ascertained if it was a mistake, blah, 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 blah. They'll always, not always, but they'll try to pretend it was a mistake. But some of these mistakes aren't mistakes. I mean, there's really no honor in war. I mean, they're just killing the people. People during the German Second World War, they try to surrender. The Americans killed them. And on the other side, they try to surrender. Towards the end of the war, the Germans killed them, and that's just the way it is. But to today's woke mentality, there is no time in Shangri-La. In war is not Shangri-La, and I feel for those guys. But having been in business with both sides of that war, and having business, not with the Ukrainians, I've never been in business with them, but I certainly have been in business with the Russians. I mean, the Russians are brutal. I mean, fuck. Now, they love me because I was hard, and I could drink from breakfast. Most of you, a stiff drink and a good fuck would kill you, which is tragic. And I'm not talking about those that don't drink because of religious or don't drink because of whatever. But there's parts of the world today, if you don't drink, you're not going to do business. That's just it. Russia's one, for sure. But there are parts of the South. Yeah. I mean, so. Just know your limitations. There's a great scene in one of the Clint Eastwood movies. You got to know your limitations. Now, you scumbag, you're probably wondering if I shot 5 or 6 bullets. Is this your lucky day or not? And then the movie, boom, they don't show him blowing his head off, but he shot one less bullet while he was chasing the scumbag to San Francisco. Okay, kids, I'm going to sleep. Thank you, Kat. Kat and EJ, don't get up and try to help move trees. But if you are up, it'd be fun to see them, trying to pull the trees around. Don't touch the chainsaws. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Zane is going to be passing water bottles out.
You would be handcuffed to a tree, right?
Yeah. Sally comes into me. I'm getting ready. She says, one of your mentees is she didn't get the cuff out of her mouth. And I said, what did Zane do? If you have pictures of the handcuffs, please send them to Kim.
That's so cute.
Jesus Christ.
What are your staff? What are your staff members brought? Like one of those
Bolt cutters. Bolt cutters. Duncan's our hero.
Zane.
Did you give him that name?
No, I didn't give him the name.
I told him I was military police. So I can help you. I know how to pick those locks. I'm definitely not.
Jesus Christ. Did he panic? Yeah, I'm sure.
You have to hurry up, then Peña comes.
They did it about 5 minutes before he walked in the door.
Yeah, maybe a little less than that, honestly.
This is what I've been dealing. This is the reality of dealing with you kids for 30 years. Now that's why we closed down upstairs, because we've had guys try to jump off the tower. We've had guys try to squeeze through the windows up there. But mostly they fall down the stairs because you all think that you haven't lost your equilibrium. But Zane? Anyway. Okay, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Stay out of trouble. Okay, sweetheart. Okay, very good. Okay, very good.